Hey everybody. Looks like the audio is working. I hear the cool music in the background. There's about a 10-second delay. So welcome to Digital Hammurabi. This is another AMA. And Megan just did all the clicking. Yep, and I hear the audio. Audio is going well. So I am going to switch over and try something new today. I am going to try to follow along with the side chat here, which will be interesting. I'm going to try to do it right here on the screen. So, anyhow, I am Dr. Josh. I'm sorry we had another little hiccup again with this OBS thing, but Megan made it happen yet again. She's amazing. And so now we have this cool green screen background, and I'd love to hear what you guys think about it. Sorry, I think I got it all set up now. So, but yeah, but she got the green screen working, so now it looks like I'm standing in front of this amazing back. In fact, we had this background up, and somebody asked me at one point, "Hey, where in your room do you have those cool tiles?" So that was pretty cool. Right. Megan's going to text me, I think, if questions come up. Sorry, I feel like this is also discombobulated and slow. We are going to get started right now, and it's going to make lots of sense. So, I am here because I like you guys, and I figured it'd be a good chance to try out this green screen background and to tell you about a couple things and then to answer your questions. So that's what I'm shooting for. So again, Dr. Josh, Digital Hammurabi, we did a really cool stream last night that Megan was able to masterfully edit together so that, because we had that problem with OBS where the bit rate changed. What is what's the stream like now? Is the stream okay? I guess I could look over here. See, I gotta remember I can do that. Yeah, it looks like it's okay. She changed the bit rate, which I'm not 100% sure what that means, but and something about the resolution. Anyway, but that's apparently what was causing us to buffer a bunch last night. So here we are, and hopefully it's working. If it doesn't, please put a little note here in the side chat, and I'll be able to see it. But yeah, so let me tell you about a couple of things. First, if you haven't seen the stream last night, I think it was pretty cool. Megan just texted me and said it looks great, no buffering. But the stream last night, if you haven't seen it, I would highly recommend it because it was our 3,000 subscriber stream. And we told you guys that we would dress up as porn stars and read Sumerian and Akkadian erotic poetry and love incantations, and that's what we did. So if you want to see Digital Hammurabi dressed up like porn stars, it's the place to go. So Oswald Jenkins says, just for Megan, your tech skills are amazing. I know how hard it is to get inadequate computers to do this stuff. Yeah, right on. I mean, it's she's just incredible, and in so many ways. So, and speaking of that, she wanted me to show you. Can I do it? Is it logo, Megan? I think it's logo. I'm supposed to. No, it's not. I'm supposed to show you. Damn it! I'm supposed to show you. She's been working on this. Thingamawhatsit.
It's not logo.
It's not logo. She's telling me it's not logo. Sorry.
Hi guys. This one.
How did you do that? Like
magic.
Okay, so then I just transition.
No, don't transition. Just
because
that little eyeball again. In fact, let me do this. Sorry, everyone. There we go. Just click right there when you're done.
Okay.
It'll go away.
It's so sad. This. Oh wait, let me just move so you can see it. This is what she's been working on. I mean, come on. That's impressive. So, right. So what she's doing is making that into a T-shirt design. It'll be up on Teespring, I think today, tomorrow. She's trying to get it. It's tough to get tough to get all the little details right. If you zoom in, it can look kind of blurry. So she's using the iPad to try to make it all really pretty. But this will be available on. I'm getting one. I think I'm gonna get the sweatshirt and the T-shirt and the coffee mug. I want this on a coffee mug. This is my favorite thing that she's done. So yeah. Anyway, stay tuned for that. Okay, I'm supposed to click there. Boom. All right. Now there's this red thing that I don't think I want to see anymore, but apparently I have to see it all the time. Yeah, I don't know how to make that little red square go away. I don't know. You guys probably can't see that little red square, but it's. So Megan, if you get a chance and you want to come back and show me how to do that, that would be awesome. Okay. Yeah. So teespring.com, and I think it's down at the bottom of the screen at some point. It's just so cool what she did here. She maybe if I. No, I have no idea how to do this. Yep, I'm not even going to touch it because I'll screw something up. You just watch. Right. I was saying something. Oh, so if you look at the top of the screen, of course, all our patrons, and down, of course, down at the bottom, moving a little more slowly, is all our social media stuff. And I think the Teespring address is in there, but that's where you can get all the T-shirts and everything. So, anyhow, all right. Ask me anything. Here we are. And if you have questions, please. It's actually really easy now. I can just look over and see them in the side chat. So any questions that you have, sorry. Is it really Digital Hammurabi without a random cat licking itself in the background? I know, right? You win some, you lose some, I guess. Yeah. What questions do you guys have for me while I'm waiting for them to come in? If you haven't liked the stream and you haven't subscribed, please do so. I think we lost 2 or 3 subscribers last night because we did an erotic stream. Maybe that's why. But yeah, so maybe I could talk a little bit about what's been going on over here. So Megan has been setting up interviews to be done with really prominent young scholars in the field. So that should be coming probably starting after the first of the year. We want to give everybody time to sort of prep and have their nice relaxing holiday season. I've been doing a lot of stuff on Skylar Fiction's channel, which has been a lot of fun. Skylar is a great guy. Love doing stuff with him, and hopefully you guys are enjoying that. Oswald Jenkins, what are your day jobs? I'm in construction, and Megan is finishing up her PhD. So kind of a long story behind the construction thing. We don't have to go into it here, but yeah, I think that the nice thing about this is, even though this wasn't exactly the direction that I thought my life would go, this channel we've sort of put together here is this amazing outlet, and it allows us to do what we need to do to make things happen in life, and also to get this content out to you guys, and to have an impact. And I love the fact that not only can we bring the ancient Near East, Mesopotamia, and the wider Near East to you guys in a fun and palatable way, but my biblical training, has I don't know, it makes things. I feel good about it, honestly, that I can provide sort of that biblical research to people here on YouTube that are interested in it. So, that's another thing I guess I can talk about. For those of you that don't know, I finished the final chapter of my Learn to Read Ancient Sumerian for beginners, and I'm picking out some of the information, some of the exercises to go in the appendices, and we're going to start doing editing on it. But I would think Megan's been looking into academic self-publishing. I have several people in the field of Assyriology that do Sumerian that I'm going to send the manuscript to when it's done for peer review. So, it should be a completely legit book, which would be great. Let me just look at the side chat real quick. We lose subs every day. Yeah, sorry, it's sucky. Steffi, I don't think I lose subs, but I'm not sure how I actually have any, because your stuff's awesome. That's why. Where do you buy the t-shirts at? Yes, down, if you look at the bottom of the screen, it's just rolling out of view, but it'll come back in a second. It's teespring.com/storefront/Digital Hammurabi. Yes, Steffi, I will be selling it. The plan is to self-publish, and I can talk about that for just a second. Oh, look at that. Megan's on it. She put it in the side chat. One of the things that we feel like our calling is a little bit here on YouTube is trying to not only get what's generally considered complex and, I don't know, esoteric information out to the general public in a way that's understandable and fun, but also to be a forum, a conduit, a facilitator, I don't know what you'd want to call it, for people that do a lot of research here on YouTube, that do a lot of work, but haven't, because of things in life or because of just the inability to come up with the funds to do it, haven't had the opportunity to go to get a formal education, get a PhD, that sort of thing in these fields. And if you don't do that, it's very difficult to have your work published. At least through in a place that people might read it or see it or whatever. And so we kind of want to be, we'd like to facilitate that as well if possible. So one of the ideas that Megan and I had was that we would learn how to publish and publish in a way that's, not just kind of goofy, your family members buy the book and anybody that happens to stumble across it on Amazon or something. But we actually learn to do it in a way that is marketable and that it actually gets the ideas out. And my thought was, marketing is such a tough thing, but YouTube is designed for this, right? And I feel like advertising here, marketing is actually I can be very effective, I think. So what we're going to do is we're going to start off by publishing this Sumerian Grammar. That sounds really weird because you wouldn't think who's going to buy a Sumerian Grammar. But actually, I think we've got 10 people already on the verified on the waiting list to get this thing. And it's not going to be crazy expensive or something. $3,600 maybe. Just kidding, obviously. But we want to make it so that it's. I don't want to make it too cheap because then it seems like it's not worth the money. But of course, I don't want to make it too expensive. Right. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to start off by publishing this Learn to Read Ancient Sumerian. And it's going to follow along pretty closely the video series that we have up on our channel. So if you've been doing Learn to Read Sumerian on our YouTube channel, the book will complement that. It's got, I think, more detail. It's more systematically laid out. It's easier to do that in writing than to do on sort of a extemporaneous video recording. But there'll be exercises. There'll be hand copies of tablets in the back that you can practice with. We'll have exercises from various Sumerian genres. So we'll have some literary excerpts. We'll have more administrative style stuff. I think we've got some year names we're going to put in there. We'll have some Sumerian letter excerpts. But the point is that it should be a very good introduction, and it will be a very nice segue to the intermediate grammar that I'm going to write shortly thereafter. and I'll talk about that in a little more detail if you guys want. But what I think that will do is that will give us a really good feel for how to publish on our own. And we may just set up something like Digital Hammurabi Publications or Digital Hammurabi Press or whatever. I don't know. And then what we can do, like Skylar, for example, Skylar has some fantastic ideas. He's been putting out content for several years, but it's tough to find a way to publish that stuff, I guess, in a meaningful way. And we sort of want to help with that. So if you've been doing a lot of research and you have really good ideas, I think we can even do this where we have sort of a peer-reviewed setup, right? Where we have access to good scholars. We are good scholars. And I think that we can do even our own sort of peer review, and then maybe we can, publish it and be that conduit to get that good information out. And that's what we're all about here at Digital Hammurabi, trying to get the newest, the latest scholarship out, young scholars that have been in the field for a while, people, just normal people that do a lot of hard work. That's sort of what we're shooting for. So let me just stop for a second and look at the side chat. Okay. What kind of construction do I do? I try to, it's weird. We have so many personal things in our lives up here, but I try to steer clear of that to some degree, because I start talking about that and then I might be giving away information that other people don't want given away. So I appreciate the questions, and I'm not trying to be all mysterious or something, but that's one area that Megan and I just decided we're going to try to kind of keep on the DL, But for other people's sake, I don't really care. But I love watching the videos, but a hard copy would be wonderful. Yeah, that's I think that's how I am as well. I want to be able to go back and reference it, look up something. And the nice thing about this Sumerian grammar is that, I've said this before, there are fantastic Sumerian grammars out there. Thompson, Etsard, Jagersma, who am I forgetting? And of course, a host of grammatical articles on Sumerian. My advisor, Dr. Paul Del Nero, this is what he does. He writes on Sumerian grammar. It's one of the big things that he does. And he's brilliant at it. The problem is that it's very difficult for somebody that doesn't have any exposure to Sumerian. Even if you have linguistic exposure, it's difficult to pick up these grammars because they're meant as reference grammars. They're not really meant as teaching grammars, right? They're not intended for you to pick up and go through yourself and learn. Even something like, blanking on his name now, Foxfog has one. I think that's meant to be more of a teaching grammar, but I still think it'd be very difficult for the average person to pick that up and learn it. There's another one. It's gray. It's 8.5 by 11 size. I can't remember, but that's better in the sense that it's easier to work through on your own. But still, the ideas can be very, very complicated. So my goal with this book was to make it so that you need to know English. And not like English grammar. You just need to know English to learn Sumerian with my grammar. So it's written in very easy. Easy is not the right word. I'm trying to think of how to pull up the grammar here. Yeah, I'll read something from one of the later chapters, so that you can kind of get a feel for I don't know why I can't do two things at once. Okay, Sumerian. There we go. Okay. Verbs in the genitive. So I'll just read a paragraph or two. There are a few things as frustrating as learning the verbal system of a foreign language. Past, present, and future tenses, passive and active, first, second, and third person. It can be enough to make you scream. Worry not. In learning to read Sumerian, we have strategically broken learning the verbal system up into manageable parts. In this lesson, we will provide a basic introduction to Sumerian verbs. In later separate lessons, we will look at the different tenses in Sumerian, how they modified for a person and number, and the different parts of the verbal chain. So here, before we start talking about transitive and intransitive or passive and active verbs in Sumerian, we should probably take some time to review these concepts in English grammar. Let's start with the difference between transitive and intransitive verbs. What is the difference between the following two sentences? Johnny walks and Johnny hit the ball. Besides the actions themselves, walking and hitting, in the first sentence, Johnny is performing an action, walking. However, in the second sentence, Johnny is doing something to something else, called the direct object in grammatical terms. So in English, there are two types of verbs that we can use. Verbs where the subject does something to something else, and verbs where it doesn't. If the subject, Johnny, is doing something to a direct object, we refer to the verb as being transitive. The subject is transferring the effects of the verb to a direct object. Johnny is transferring the effects of hitting to the ball. If there is no direct object, we call the verb intransitive. So that's sort of the way that's sort of the language, the style that I'm using. It's meant to be conversational in a sense. So, of course, that hasn't gone through the editing process yet. That's just me writing it. So, yeah, I'm excited about it. So if you have an idea, if you've written an article, if you're thinking about putting something together, you have a really great argument and you want to run it by people, or you want to get it published, hey, maybe we start a Digital Hammurabi journal, and people can write in, and maybe once a year we publish a journal. I don't know. The possibilities are endless. So I'd love to have your comments on that, your suggestions, your ideas. Okay, let me turn, see if there are any questions here in the side chat. Schools, okay. Wildheart 666. You need to know English? That rules out most Americans then. It's funny, I have a really good friend named Rado in Germany, and he's Bulgarian by birth. He speaks and writes English better than many, native-born English speakers that I know, which is funny. That's what happens when you learn it as a language. You learn all the rules, that sort of thing, in a systematic way. But still, it's very impressive. He's very impressive. Okay. So, yes, do I plan to do anything like this for Biblical Hebrew? I can. The thing is, Biblical Hebrew has been done actually pretty well, I think. There are a lot of grammars out there that are there are a lot of grammars out there for Biblical Hebrew that are designed for the layperson. So Hendrickson Publications, for example, has a lot of good stuff out there. But that doesn't mean that I couldn't do something. If that's something that people really want, yeah, I could definitely do that. We do have, obviously, a Hebrew video series, Learn to Read Hebrew video series. I think we're 3 video lessons through. I've wanted to put out more, but I've been trying to push to get the Sumerian book done before I move on too deep into other things. But, okay. Where is it? Why are the titles of your videos, all the titles of your videos, sex-related? Are you guys nymphomaniacs? We're not. I don't know that all of them are sex-related. I mean, all the ones that have to do with Sumerian erotic literature are, obviously. But I can see why you would think that. Megan's been going through, in case you guys don't know, Megan has been going through a book by Gwendolyn Like, who's a brilliant scholar in the field, and it's called Sex and Eroticism in Mesopotamia. I think that's the title of it. And so she's been sort of laying out some of it's more focused on literature and erotica in literary texts. So yeah, I mean, I think some of the titles of the streams are Enki's penis, the bigger picture, because Enki's penis features prominently in Sumerian literature. So yeah, I guess that's why it would show up. All right. Well, while I'm waiting for questions to come in, and again, please feel free to ask me about anything. If you have questions about stuff that I've talked about here or that Megan has talked about, I could probably try to answer it. Or things that I've talked about on other people's shows. We've gone on the Non Sequitur shows, Skylar Fiction, Shannon Q, Aaron Raw. So if you have questions about that, that'd be fantastic. I'd love to answer those as well. So stuff that we've talked about recently and stuff that'll be coming up. Maybe this will spark some ideas of questions that you guys might have. But I've talked obviously a lot about Ezekiel 26 and the failed prophecy of Ezekiel. And sorry, Megan texted me. Right. So I guess I missed that question. Oh, there it is. Okay. What other YouTube channels do you watch outside of the religious debating type of people? I've watched recently, I Threw It on the Ground by Lonely Hearts of late, many times. That's not really probably what you're asking. I do enjoy watching Aaron Ra pick apart other people's arguments, but I guess that still falls in the same genre. Not much. I do a lot of, I suppose YouTube is the place. If I watch videos, I'm watching it to try to find things that people are interested in that I could talk about and critique. If I'm trying to gain other content, like learn things, oftentimes the first place that I go is the stack of books that I need to get through. But I do I watched several series on first century Christianity and the development of the development of the church, and not from a Christian standpoint, but from a secular standpoint. And I do like watching things, of course, about Mesopotamia. And actually, a really good series is, there aren't too many videos in it that I know of, but Steve Tinney, Dr. Steve Tinney at University of Pennsylvania, up at the museum up there, has put out several lectures talking about Mesopotamian literature, Sumerian and Akkadian literature. So the Anzu myth, stuff that we've talked about here, but perhaps from a different, not a different point of view, but giving different details that I've given. So yeah, that's the sort of stuff I like to watch. I think Megan likes watching cooking shows. I don't want to speak for her too much, but okay. Andy saying finally catching a live stream. Hey, all right, cool. Yeah, I thought maybe it'd be a good idea to do one earlier in the morning for people in Europe, and for people that are maybe lounging around in bed still. Might want to watch it here. Steffi, of course they are. That's probably a response. Sorry. Yes, we were dressed in our finest porn attire. It's really funny trying to figure out how would we dress as porn stars, right? Because, the first thing is simply to be nude, and you really can't do that. So then trying to think, like, should I wear like a pizza delivery guy outfit or something? But I think what Megan came up with was better. Okay. I like your channel, but when you produce 21 hours worth of content in a single day, it makes it difficult to watch. Yes. Will we be editing our videos in the future? Yeah, so that's a good question. I don't know how long you've been with us, but so a couple of things happened. One, several people asked us to bring all of the videos that we did, the videos that we've done on other people's channels, like mirror them on our channel so that they didn't have to go roaming around. And we didn't really think about this, but we brought them all in sort of in bulk. And of course, what that did is just clog up everybody's feed or whatever it is. So we're trying to bring them in bit by bit now, and still produce new daily data. It's been difficult for Megan because she's been sick now for almost 3 weeks, and so it's been difficult to. And of course, Oliver's been sick as well. Anyway, so yes, probably I would say starting in the very near term, we're going to get back on our Monday and Friday new daily data, Wednesday live stream with Megan, series. However, I did a video that hopefully I will finish editing today and get to my sister. It's either going to go up Monday or Friday. Can't remember which one. But my sister, I think I mentioned this last night actually, my sister is getting her law degree, and she's doing a project where she wanted to track the development of slavery throughout, from the period of the ancient Near East down into modern times. So of course, I couldn't really do much for her for the modern development, but she interviewed me, and we used OBS to do the interview, so you can see us both with a cool background. And we've edited, Megan and I have, actually she did most of the editing. That should go up Monday or Friday. And then I recorded reading my Ezekiel 26 paper. And I have to do some editing on that today, but it looks like it's about a 25-minute read. And that should go up this week as well. So hopefully, I noticed that several people have been tweeting out and using as a reference the live stream that I did about Ezekiel 26 in like on Twitter and I guess other social media, which is fantastic. Hopefully this will be a more precise resource, something that it's actually doing just reading that paper, so that you can use that. When people say, "Oh, Ezekiel's prophecy didn't really fail," Alexander the Great is actually the one that's mentioned in Ezekiel 26. You can link to that video and say, no, here's a really, it's the word that I'm thinking of, short, to the point. I can't remember the word. I love MS. Video about it. Anyhow, okay. Can I talk a little bit about the sacred king rituals? How long did it persist? Like the sacred marriage, is that what you're talking about? Very complicated issue. And actually, I don't know that off the cuff I could talk about it an awful lot. Megan probably could a little more than I could. But it's very complicated. So the idea is that, did the king as a means of fertility, did he copulate with a priestess, or someone else in order to, provide fertility in the land? Did the priestess represent the goddess? Did the king represent Tamuzi? Yeah, it's complicated. And actually, I should make a note to do a little more reading on that. Actually, I've been doing a lot of reading recently on the book of Daniel. We could talk about that if you guys want, at least a little bit, and the prophecies that are there. And are they actually predictive, or are they prophecies that were given after the fact? So we could talk about that if you guys would like. Are you planning on doing any future projects with Skylar besides Hangouts? Yes. Actually, right now, and if you know people, let them know. We've been trying to get sort of like a 2-on-2 debate going, and it's difficult. My thought was, I'm not quick on my feet, right? So as you guys can all tell, watching these streams, I blank on things pretty regularly. But more, I think, problematic for me in a debate is that I always have to take everybody's arguments seriously, because that's sort of what that academic part of my brain does. Like, okay, I know that your argument is junk, but I have to make sure that I don't dismiss it all out of hand, because there might be parts of it that are actually legitimate, and I need to say that those parts are legitimate. Well, of course, when you do that, first of all, it becomes very difficult for me anyway to argue broadly against them, and then secondly, from the audience standpoint, it looks like I'm giving them, saying that they're right, maybe more than I should, because I say, oh yeah, that part of your argument actually is pretty sound. However, I think Skylar is fantastic at debating, and so I thought, well, you know what? Maybe a great idea would be to just have a 2-on-2 debate, and because then if you have two people come on to debate two other people, the pressure's off, right? You can let the other person debate for a little bit, and then you can add something, and then the other person can add something. And so we thought maybe it would make people more comfortable to come in. It's actually very difficult to get people to come on and debate us. So if you know people, or I've tried to get Jesus' Lord to come in and debate with somebody else. But anyway. Okay. Last night you were reading Sumerian poems and they mentioned guarding angels. Is that a Christian concept borrowed from Sumer? Yeah, that's a tough question as well. It's hard to know where, specifically where ideas are borrowed from. It's the idea of angels operating behind the scenes and operating over particular cities or operating over particular people is if we use angels in a more broad sense, like divine beings, that sort of stuff happens. People have personal gods in Mesopotamian religion. So if your personal god, who is supposed to be sort of the gatekeeper for keeping out bad things, bad demons or bad spirits coming in and giving you diseases and whatnot, or bad things happening to you, then yes, in that sense, that's a guardian spirit, a guardian angel, in that narrow sense. But of course, some of these poetic texts in Mesopotamian literature talk about, this disease has come about in my body because my personal God has walked away from me, right? Has taken to the countryside, and so I'd have to look more specifically into guardian angel traditions. I think we'd have to look extra biblically for them, at least in the development of Christianity. But yeah, I mean, in that sense, there's clearly a motif that's being picked up on. Okay. How well developed was the road from Palestine to Mesopotamia in your era of research? Very well. Actually, so kings throughout Mesopotamian history walked the path of the Fertile Crescent, right? You'd go over and you'd cross, you go north. If you're coming out of southern Mesopotamia, you go north, and then you'd come to the west and you cross over the Euphrates River, go through Syria, and then come south. Now you could come south on the western side of Palestine. You had to go through a more mountainous area there, or you could pass through on the eastern bank. And a lot of trade routes, of course, a lot of trade routes run through there. So yeah, the path was actually very well developed, and it was taken annually by the Assyrian kings, particularly during the first millennium. So yes, quite well developed. Josh mentioned me, and I am from India. Andy, we really appreciate you being here, man. And no, it's cool. Oh yeah, so let me take a second and talk about that. Sorry. I was going to talk about this, and I was going to write all this stuff down, and then I didn't do it because I never do it. So we have super chats available, right? And I think I've mentioned this before, but let me develop it a little bit more. So the super chats that people give, and the money that is made from YouTube, from like ads, like people watching the videos, that money we keep and put toward microphones and developing our software. Like there's a green screen behind me, obviously, but it's sort of it's not the greatest setup that we have. It's working, I think, really well actually today. But anyway, so that's the money that we keep. Money from super chats and money that comes directly from YouTube for ads. All of the money from the Patreon goes directly to the scholarship program, right? And of course, we've said that the 10% or whatever it is, 5%, I don't know, that Patreon takes from a person's donation, we will contribute from our own personal funds to make up that difference, so that if somebody gives $100 to Patreon, $100 actually goes right to the student. It's not like, only 95% of it does. Anyhow. Okay, so that being said, YouTube YouTube takes 30% of super chats, as I understand it. So obviously we're very excited to get super chats from people. And thank you so much for doing it. It might be a better use, though, at this stage, given that we don't have... super chats are really effective, in my opinion, when you have like 500 people watching, right? Because, it's going so fast, and if you really want what, you've written to be seen and said on the air, then, that's one of the bonuses of super chat. In our streams, we're not there yet, right? We don't have 500 people watching. So I or Megan will often just actually read most of what everybody writes in the side chat, because that's manageable. So maybe the better thing to do, if you do want to donate to us to help us, improve the equipment that we have, and maybe even more importantly, to improve the study resources that we have, Megan has set up a wish list on Amazon. And anytime I come across like a commentary that I need, or there's a new book that's been published and it would be really, really useful for putting out new content. For example, I'm going through the book of Daniel right now, and it's going to be really useful to have a good commentary on the book of First Enoch. There's a 2-volume commentary in there in the Hermeneus series. Can't remember who wrote it, but anyway, we want to make those available, because it's YouTube doesn't take 30% if you decide to buy something off of the wish list for us, and it goes directly to making better content. She also has like lighting equipment up there, and other stuff that comes up that we think, oh my gosh, this would make it much better for our streaming. So I just wanted to throw that out there. Of course, obviously, you guys can super chat, and that's fantastic. We just want to I want to make it so that you get the most bang for your buck. Right. Steffi says, I loved it, the gold chains. Yeah, it was cool. It looked better than I anticipated, which is fun. Oswald Jenkins, does the freeway that the USA is blocking on the tri-border town correspond to the ancient trade route, or is that a new route? I do not know. Yeah, I don't know. I'd have to look. Sorry. Oh, my sister's here. Hey, Nick. Or at least she was when that text or that thing was said. Oh boy. It skipped down. Sorry, everybody. Okay, here we are. Concise. Megan put that in there. Yes, and that was like 10 minutes ago. Sorry. Well, I'm really going slow through the side chat here. Okay, this may not be on topic, but what are y'all's thoughts on the apocryphal texts? Yeah, I mean, so if you're asking me from, an agnostic standpoint or point of view, I mean, I think they're great, right? Let's talk about, just because I'm working through Daniel, Susanna or Belle and the Dragon. These are texts that are in Greek that appear at the end of the book of Daniel, and they're considered canonical, I think, by the Catholic Church, but not by Protestantism, right? Well, they're fantastic works of literature, and they really and can inform us and do inform us concerning genre and what when you come to then the book of Daniel and you look at apocalyptic literature, what is being intended there. So, for example, that Daniel's 70 weeks in Daniel chapter 9, he's not the only person that writes about time periods in weeks, right? And so what you want to do is go to these apocryphal works and investigate, how weeks are used there so that you can bring that back into your analysis of the actual canonical text. So, did Enkidu actually have sex with a priestess? I mean, in the story, she's a prostitute, probably, obviously, more than likely engaged with the temple, but or at least there's a strong possibility that. Actually, I haven't looked into that direct connection, but I mean, Shamkat was a prostitute, right? So, in the story, yes, he actually had sex for 7 days and 7 nights, but of course, that's the literary text. So, Oswald Jenkins, Lebanon is deploying military to their border in preparation for the war with Israel. Revelations is happening. It's hard to tell from text whether it's a serious or sarcastic comment. Sorry, so I'll just. I mean, there are a lot of people, right, that read the book of Revelation and say, oh, this is like Daniel was, or like Daniel is, depicting events still to come in the future, and so, of course, I don't think that, but we can talk about that if you guys would like. How do you reconcile the covenant of circumcision? Is it either the first sacred pact with God or child genital mutilation? I mean, I don't think that we need to actually have a deity that really formed a covenant with God, and I don't think that we would look at genital mutilation in the same way that they did. I think it's abhorrent, right? Or abhorrent's too strong. I don't think it's wise. And of course, looking at it through 21st. You know what? I shouldn't say this. I haven't looked at the medical data on this. We did not circumcise Oliver. I should be careful, I guess, about what I say about this because I don't know the literature, the science. I mean, the medical literature behind this. But yes, I don't think we need to. Certainly, they did not consider it in genital mutilation in the immoral sense that we do, that we would now. So, okay. Sorry, let me just scroll through and see if I can find questions. Oh, Megan's answering. Gosh, am I really this far behind in the chat? Sorry, everybody. Didn't personal gods rule over the house? I mean, Mesopotamian religion is tricky, right? So you don't have this straight uniformity of the beliefs of the participants, the adherents throughout time. So what you have to do is you have to go back and look at the evidence, the sources that we have during the various periods, and try to construct a theology based on that. So, and of course, that stuff is not monolithic. I don't know. Okay. Sorry, I'm trying to just scroll through here. Does our cuneiform logo mean anything? No, it's just writing D and H in a really clever way, I think, with Megan made that. Megan makes all of our stuff, and I think she's ingenious. But yeah, that's D and an H, so Digital Hammurabi. The pyramids were made by aliens. Changed my mind. Yeah, I won't comment on the pyramids just because they're out of my field. But I think I can say with great confidence that they were not. You know what? We should get Dr. Maggie Bryson on here. That would actually be a really good interview to do. Steffi, hey, she gave us a $10 super chat. Thank you so much. I'm so sorry. I think it's taken me a long time to recognize that. I'm really sorry. Thank you for that. Thank you, Oswald. If you cannot afford a decent PC to stream with, you cannot afford to donate money. You are poor. I appreciate that. Yeah, we don't have a lot of money. That is true. That is true. But I still think yeah, I appreciate that. I don't think that was meant as an insult. So. Okay, sorry. I really am trying to scroll down to get questions. It's always better, I think, when Megan just texts them to me. But it's also hard to do that. So, did Greek-speaking Jews take stories like Belle and the Dragon as scripture? Yeah, I mean, I would think so. They're in the Septuagint. And I actually want to go back and look at the Old Greek. But yeah, I mean, definitely they're there. So if you look at, for example, the placement, even as the Septuagint, the Old Greek went through its recensions. Theodotion, for example, has, I think it's Susanna before Daniel chapter 1, whereas the Old Greek, I think, has it after chapter 12. So yeah, I mean, it's there in the Septuagint, and that's really, I think that's pretty good evidence for that. Okay.
Paige just got in.
Oh, hey, Paige. Sorry, I'm still up at the top. Are the Nephilim in Genesis 6 aliens? No. No, they're not. And this is really cool because the green screen's here, but Oliver's just behind us. But you can't see him. Maybe that's not a good thing. Maybe you guys really want to see Oliver. I know I do. No, so the Nephilim... oh, here he is. It's Oliver. Ow, Lord in heaven.
Nice.
I need to trim his nails. Hi, buddy.
Yeah, don't scratch me, you silly.
Don't scratch me. No, and you know what? I think we've talked about the Nephilim a little bit here. It comes from the root nafal, which is to fall, right? So the fallen ones. But they're only mentioned twice in the biblical text. Once there in Genesis 6, and then once in Numbers. I think it's unclear what they are, but they're a distinct group from the B'nai Elohim, the sons of God. But no, if you're asking because of Sitchin's work, no, they're definitely not. Okay. Gosh, I've fallen behind again. Sorry, everybody. Okay. And there is Miss Page. This is so cool. I really appreciate you guys being here. Aren't you supposed to call a doctor after lasting more than 4 hours? I think so. But maybe he had some of those incantations that we read last night. So, is there a way for people to donate to an Amazon fund for you? I'm looking. I don't know. I know that. Sorry, that's probably something for Megan to answer. I think that we have PayPal, so I think that you could donate to PayPal or transfer to PayPal and then mark it as for a specific thing. Because I do know that, Nikki, you're right. Some of those commentaries, right, are expensive, and people don't want to give $90, but they wouldn't mind giving $10 toward a commentary. So that's really a good point. Oh gosh, Paige has drawn. It looks like Kirby. Paige, is that what that is? How I know that aliens didn't build the pyramids is that they are made of stone and not of advanced metals. I think that's one of the reasons. But that's a good point. Which Bible commentaries would you recommend for an agnostic atheist wanting to study the Old Testament? Yeah, that's a great question. So, here's the thing. Let me talk about these for just a second. So sorry, I'm trying to think of where to begin with this. It is interesting to note, I think, that mainstream evangelical Christianity, mainstream evangelical scholars, some of the sort of crazy, in my opinion, young earth creationism beliefs, or understanding the flood as something that literally happened, a worldwide flood, they're not things that mainstream evangelical scholars hold to, right? Of course, there are some, but not most. So even if you get an evangelical scholar's commentary, for example, I'm trying to think, the New International Commentary on the Old Testament series, NICOT, they're usually actually really good, right? Because even though the author might hold his own, beliefs, and not to say that I know that all of them are evangelicals, but in fact, I doubt that they are. But they still provide, as scholars, they still provide all the background secondary literature. They're going to cite all the sources. But yes, so one of the series that I really like is Hermenia. This is the book on Daniel. John Collins wrote that one. I like some of the volumes in the New International Commentary on the Old Testament. Again, I think they're very thorough in their treatment of the text. The Word Biblical Commentary is a fantastic series. Little dated, I think, at the moment. But what else do I have? Yale's, oh boy, what's it called? I'm blanking on the name of the Yale commentary series. But they're excellent as well. So one of my old professors, Kyle McCarter, wrote 1st and 2nd Samuel in the Yale series, and of course I think it's fantastic. It's a little dated, just because of when he wrote it, but anyway, If you want to ask about specific books, or just email us at digitalhammurabi@gmail.com, and I can get you some of the individual commentaries that I get. Yeah, Nikki, I think you're right. Oh, and thank you, Milwaukee Atheists. I appreciate that. It says we're proud of what we've done. I appreciate that. You're right. I think it'd be a whole lot easier for somebody to just say, "Hey, here's $10 towards the camera," as opposed to, spending $200 on a camera. So, okay, what books would you recommend to a Southern Baptist who has never considered the existence of other and older civilizations? Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of good introductory works. We summarized one. I did a video series on this channel. It's a little older, but it's still considered a standard in the field, and that is Eliel Oppenheim's Portrait of a Dead Civilization. And I go through, his book, of course, is covering ancient Mesopotamia, and goes through all the different facets of it. And so I made a video series for all of it, summarizing the most important parts of each chapter. So that's a great place to start. It's a good book. But if you email me, I can probably recommend some other ones, unless Megan sees them here and wants to put them in. Okay. What else? Skylar Fiction is in the house. Hey, Skylar. Good to see you, man. Oh, and he says that's the best channel. Well, it's the best channel next to Skylar Fiction. Okay, yeah, Steffi. Amazon has a gift card option. That's true. Let's see. PayPal under what name? Oh, Megan answered that. Cool. Let's see. Genesis 1:6 talks about a solid sky dome. I have heard that apologists say that rakia means expanse of the sky to try to get around this ancient cosmology. What are your thoughts on this? They're wrong. That was easy. No, and I understand why they want to do that, right? The problem is that it's not just the word rakia. And I have a couple of videos where I address one of Hugh Ross's arguments about stretching out the heavens, where he wants that, of course, to be the stretching out in the Big Bang, or the expansion in the Big Bang. The reality here is that ancient cosmology and ancient cosmic geography have the Earth as flat. They have some type of a dome covering, or at least like a solid surface as the heavens. And you can see this not only in the literary texts, but also in texts that are designed a little more to try to show ancient cosmic geography. So, yeah, rakia comes from rakah, resh, kof, ayin, which means to hammer out, right, or to spread out. And it's used to talk about something that has been hammered out, right, like a hammered out plate or something. So that rakia there in Genesis 1 is used to separate the waters from the waters and to hold, waters above it, which is exactly what we see in other ancient Near Eastern cosmologies. For example, if you go to the Enuma Elish and you see what Marduk does with the body of Tiamat after he defeats her, he stretches out half of her hide to create the heavens and to keep the water from coming back down. So, I mean, this is quite in keeping with ancient Near Eastern cosmology. So I love that Paige is in here. She's saying hi to her aunt. Okay. What else? It's called the firmament. As far as I know, it's completely made up. Yeah, I mean, it's made up in the sense that there's no firmament up there, right? I guess unless you're a flat earther, which I am not. So yeah, but that cosmology. I mean, if you think about it, think about something like the Aitana myth. We've read that, I think, on our channel. I think we have. If we haven't, we should soon. But it talks about Aitana making a flight up to heaven. And what he does is he flies up on the back of an eagle and ends up trying to find the opening in heaven, right? He's trying to find like the doorway, the gateway to go through. And then he has to go through a second one. So a really good book to look at is by Horowitz, and it's called Mesopotamian Cosmic Geography. And actually, we have a scholar that has been working on cosmic geography, and she's going to be coming on and giving an interview. So maybe we can talk to her about that. I think that would be very interesting to discuss with her. So, yeah. But the thing to remember, I think, in all of this is that, and I may be going on the Non Sequitur show in the near term to talk about both ancient Near Eastern cosmic geography and biblical cosmic geography. But the thing to keep in mind is that the biblical text is not doing anything really new, right? They're operating in the world that they knew of, and the traditions and the ideas that they understood. And so, I don't think that you need, to try to posit that they're coming up with something new. If you want to hold to the inspiration of the biblical texts, I think you can do that, right? I think that God is operating in the world that He's finding, so, or that He's working with, right? So I don't think that's an issue for inerrancy or inspiration, that sort of thing. Hey, my mom's in the chat. This is great. It's like a whole family thing going on here. That's awesome. Nikki said, my sister said, flight up to heaven, don't lie. I just took that from Forrest Gump. Yeah, clearly. That's what I do. Have you found Jesus, Gump? No, I'm supposed to be looking for him, sir. That's where I got it. It's not where I got it. Okay. What should I talk about? Do you guys want me to talk a little bit about sort of like a preview of what's going on with Daniel 9, what I'm going to be doing. Yeah, I'm not a flat earther. Unfortunately, I suppose. Because, see, that would be very interesting. Oh, gosh. Right. Yeah, let me talk just a little bit about what's going on with Daniel chapter 9. And how many people do we have watching? Let me see. Wow, 38. Whew. Boy, you guys are awesome. Right. Jenny made a trip up to heaven. Yes, that's right. That is right. Okay, so Daniel chapter 9, if you're not familiar with it, deals with... so Daniel is purportedly, in a text, supposed to be a captive during the Babylonian and then the Babylonian captivity and then during the Persian period. And he's supposed to be writing during this period and talking about the apocalypse, right? He's talking about things that are going to be happening in the future. So he has visions, he is talked to by the angel Gabriel, and he gives these sometimes vague, sometimes very specific predictions, prophetic apocalypses, right? About what's coming in the future. So this has been picked up on, of course, by people that believe in the validity of Old Testament prophecy, and so they want to see this timeline of human history being predicted beforehand. So, if you think about, maybe we can just, I have not been brainwashed by the Illuminati. And no, so Evil Elvis. No, I don't know that I hold to any conspiracy theories. I'm kind of boring, I guess, in that way. But let me get to the book of Daniel, and I'll read some of the stuff that... Okay, so this will just kind of give you an idea of what the text is trying to do. In the first year of Belshazzar, king of Babylon, Daniel had a dream and visions in his head while on his bed. Then he wrote down the dream, telling the main facts. Daniel spoke, saying, I saw in my vision by night, and behold, the four winds of heaven were stirring up the great sea. And four great beasts came up out of the sea, each different from the other. The first was like a lion and had eagle's wings. I watched till its wings were plucked off, and it was lifted from the earth and made to stand on 2 feet like a man, and a man's heart was given to it. And suddenly another beast, a second like a bear. It was raised up on one side, and had 3 ribs in its mouth between its teeth. And they said thus to it, Arise, devour much flesh. After this I looked, and there was another like a leopard, which had on its back 4 wings of a bird. The beast also had 4 heads, and dominion was given to it. Anyway, after this I saw in the night visions, and behold, a 4th beast, dreadful and terrible, exceedingly strong. It had huge iron teeth. It was devouring, breaking in pieces, and trampling the residue with its feet. It was different from all the beasts that were before it, and had 10 horns. I was considering the horns, and there was another horn, a little horn, coming up among them, before whom 3 of the first horns were plucked out by their roots. And there in this horn were eyes like the eyes of a man, and a mouth speaking pompous words. I watched till thrones were put in place, and the Ancient of Days was seated. His garment was white as snow, and the hair of his head was like pure wool. His throne was a fiery flame, its wheels a burning fire. A fiery stream issued and came forth from before him. 1,000 thousands ministered to him. 10,000 times 10,000 stood before him. The court was seated, and the books were opened. Anyway, so you can hear this. It's sort of mysterious, this apocalyptic literature, right? And what he's doing is he's supposed to be, hundreds of years before some of these events are taking place. supposed to be predicting them. So these four beasts are the four kingdoms that would come. So you have the Babylonians, the Medes, the Persians, and then Greece. And of course, this culminates with Antiochus Epiphanes the fourth, right? And I think this is all pretty standard. That people aren't really debating this in academic circles, like what I would consider to be legitimate academic circles, and right, what was I saying? Something. Anyhow, so if Daniel is actually writing this, before these things take place, because he's living in the Babylonian Empire, or the later in the Persian Empire, then wow, this is predictive prophecy, and it's very specific predictive prophecy, right? Because we can see how these things you can see how these things come about. The problem is that it was twofold, at least, and we'll talk about this when the time comes. I'm trying to put together something to talk about on Aaron Ra's channel in the near term. Did any Christian writers ever try to add a fifth beast, Rome? Actually, they try to reinterpret the text to indicate Rome instead. But that's a good question. I mean, there may be some Christian writers that do that, but I think it's more common to just see the last beast or the last part of the statue as Rome instead. Right. The reality here is that we can have a fair amount of confidence, both in the Hebrew of the text. It's late Hebrew. The Aramaic of the text is less certain. It's more difficult, if at all possible, to date the writing or date the Aramaic late, because the Aramaic could kind of go either way. I think there's definitely evidence that the Aramaic is late, but it's not. It's certainly not. You can't prove that, in my opinion. Oh, thank you so much. She brought me coffee. You're the greatest woman in the world. Thank you. But the Hebrew has a lot of Aramaisms in it. It has late verbal forms. In other words, you can determine the late date of the writing, I think, a lot more firmly using the Hebrew. But what we see, I think, with the book of Daniel is very clearly a development in the text. So without going into a lot of detail here, the individual chapters, generally speaking, in the book of Daniel circulated as individual tales, right, or individual visions. They were units. And then they were brought together at a later date. And I think this is pretty clearly demonstrable. The nice thing about it is that you see in some of the earlier visions talking about these kingdoms that they develop as the chapters go by. So you get more detail because more events have happened as they are written. And so you end up seeing, you can date, thank you, Paige, that's a cool background. You can actually see the development. I think, again, it's pretty demonstrable. You could say this chapter is very likely dated to 167 BCE, right, after these events have taken place. And this chapter is dated to even the summer of 164 BCE, because we know about the history of the period. And you can see that those details are added in, right? So there's more detail about things that are happening later. And I guess what I would say is, you don't want to come to the text. I don't think it's a wise thing to come to the text and say the supernatural doesn't happen, prophecy can't happen, and so we have to date these based on the information that's given, because you of course you wouldn't know something before it happened. I do take that position, obviously, that I don't think supernatural prophecy is a legitimate thing. However, that's certainly not the only reason that these chapters are dated in the way that they are. And I think what you end up having to do is say, okay, if we have evidence that the Hebrew is late, if we have at least a leaning that the Aramaic is late, and you have this development where more detail is given as the chapters go by about things that happen later and later, and that they get historical details incorrect, about the things that are going to happen during that Babylonian, Medo-Persian, Grecian sequence. They get details wrong, right? They get which king is being spoken of and which kings are in the sequence. They get these things incorrect. And so when you take when you take all of these things into account, I think you just have to say from a model standpoint, from a standpoint of what model best fits, it is that these are texts that are written after the fact, or during or after, that are designed to, they have a very definite purpose, like apocalyptic literature does. And if you understand it in that sense, apocalyptic literature is designed to bolster and encourage the people that are going through difficult physical circumstances. You see this in the book of Revelation. Of course, you see these in the book of Daniel, and of course other apocalyptic literature that may not make it into the canon. So, okay, Jake 3D, Digital Hammurabi. How do these things relate? Babel, Genesis 12, Gilgamesh, Nebuchadnezzar, Babylon. Is Babylon the same place as Babel? Yeah, I mean, I don't know that I've looked into the arguments for or against that recently, but yeah, I mean, it's, well, it's hot. I don't know what all those things have in common. Yeah, I don't know. If you have an idea of what they all have in common, that'd be cool to hear. Okay. Well, we've been going about an hour and a half, and I feel like this has been a successful test of our new OBS setup. And how many people do we have watching? I mean, I can keep going. I can find more things to think about. We have 44 people watching. Good grief. If you guys want me to keep going, keep asking me questions. I will, and I'll try to answer them. It's interesting just sort of to talk while I'm waiting if people want to ask some more questions. I watched a video on somebody trying to explain Daniel chapter 9. And in Daniel chapter 9 is about the 70 weeks. And, excuse me, so to think about... Christina Blackfeather's here. Hi, Josh. Had to stop by for intelligence after listening to Flat Earthers. Well, thank you. It's awesome to have you. Really excited when Christina gets here. So the video, okay, Daniel chapter 9 talks about the 70 years that the prophet Jeremiah, in Jeremiah chapter 25 and also in chapter 29, he pronounced against, against the land of Judea and Jerusalem, where these false prophets, in Jeremiah's estimation, were making statements to the people saying, the captivity is not going to last that long. We're not going to be there for all that long in Babylon. Or in Babylonia, so, don't worry about it. And, Jeremiah says, buy houses, plant vineyards, there in Babylon because you're going to be there a while. And he says you're going to be there for 70 years. Well, in the book of Daniel, chapter 9, Daniel's considering, the text says, this prophecy by Jeremiah saying 70 years are pronounced against, Jerusalem and Judah. And so he's curious because, wait a second, this 70 years are up. Why are we still here? Why hasn't everything been, taken back to normal? And so the angel Gabriel comes and says, it's actually not just 70 years, it's 70 sevens, 70 weeks of years. And so that's 490 years that are supposed to go from one point to another point. And it was very interesting because it's used in certain circles to be a strict prophetic prediction about the year that Jesus would come as Messiah. And I won't go into it here, but it's very interesting because I think the arguments are very ad hoc, right? They want Jesus to come in 27 AD, and so they take 483 years and go backwards, right? Anyway, but we'll talk about that. That's sort of some things to come here. All right, let me take a second look at the side chat. I need more hair product. Thank you. I actually don't have any in. This is just water, which is pretty cool. Beach Price, I'd like something confirmed. Did they come upon Jericho after it had been demolished and made up a story about it? I mean, that's something that I don't know that we would know. What I suspect is, if I had to guess, these texts are written well into the first millennium, right? So, there may have been traditions floating around, but these texts are written in the first millennium. So, in all likelihood, in my opinion, and I can go do some research to try to substantiate this. There's a tradition floating around about a destruction of Jericho, right? And they use that. So yes, I don't know that they would have come upon it necessarily, but there may have been just a Jerusalem destruction. What we do know from the people that excavated at Jericho, Kathleen Kenyon first, and then later a French excavation team, we do know that there was not a destruction in the late 15th century. There were no walls, giant walls that are depicted. I know that Bryant Wood, a University of Toronto grad, did his dissertation on the pottery sequence at Jericho and argues, vehemently for a late 15th century destruction. But I think, I'm not strictly an archaeologist, so I won't take a. I'd rather an archaeologist come here and demonstrate that. So maybe that's what we'll do. Hey, another super chat. Omagaya. Omagaya. I always forget. Thank you so much. $20. Wow. Down payment on future Sacred King research. Roger that. I will make a note and get it done. That's awesome. Thank you. Okay. It's 1000 AD. Where's Jesus? That's a good question. Okay, Jake 3D. Okay, I'm aware of the ziggurat, but is that Babel the same Babylon as later with Nebuchadnezzar? Yeah, I don't. I think what's happening here in this text is that they're in the Neo-Babylonian captivity, and they're writing a text based on the things that they see. Actually, in effect, the Tower of Babel, I think, is one of the Babylonian ziggurats. I can't remember now which one. I don't know if it's Atem and Naguru or one of the other ones, but it's supposed to be based on. But I'm pulling that just from my reading many, many years ago. So, okay, Richard Wood, is there information about what industries we're doing? Metallurgy, as example. Or did technology transfer, like what rocks to choose or the best kiln? Yes, there's actually a lot. Omagaya, thank you. Yes, there's actually a lot of information about metallurgy, and I briefly touch on it when I did the Oh, I see. What was I saying? Sorry, I was reading another. Right. Oh, metallurgy. That's what it was. So yeah, I in that summary, that video summary that I do, the daily data that I do on Elio Oppenheim's book, he has a chapter about metallurgy and crafts. It's a very short, video. I don't go into a great deal of detail, primarily because that's a whole, subsection of the field. But yes, there's actually a lot of work that's been done on metallurgy and, the different lexemes and the different practices of kiln firing and, heating and all that stuff. It's beyond my, what I understand about it. But yes, there's actually a lot of research that's been done on it. So, well, okay. I feel good about this. I really appreciate all of you guys being here. Thank you so much for the super chats. All of that will be obviously put to very good use on buying equipment or commentaries to to get better content out here. So I just really appreciate you guys, and we will keep you up to date on the publishing of the Learn to Read Sumerian for Beginners book, and also Megan will probably tweet out or maybe put on YouTube. I'm not sure which one. If you guys don't follow us on Twitter, by the way, please do. Please follow us on Twitter. I think the Twitter handle is down there in the bottom. It's at Digi_Hammurabi. Megan, of course, Megan's the one that does Twitter all the time, but really, she puts out all the new information about interviews that we're going to do, all the interactions that we're having with people, any cool news. Usually that stuff goes out on Twitter. We try to put it on the YouTube feed, but I feel like I only want to put select things up there because I don't want to clog up people's feeds. So, but she should be doing, getting up very shortly, that T-shirt design. I will be getting one, and I'll be getting a coffee cup so that next time you guys, hopefully the next time or in the near future when you see me do this, you will see Digital Hammurabi on the coffee cup. But this has been a lot of fun. Thank you guys. I'm reading all the thank yous in here. I really, really appreciate you being here. And anyhow, well, we will be back. I'm pretty sure that Megan will be doing a Wednesday stream. Oh, thank you, Mom. Mom says I'm a great teacher. No bias there, I'm sure. But you guys are so welcome. Another super chat. Thank you so much, Jake3D. $5. Love the channel. Thank you, Josh and Megan, for your work and information. You guys are amazing. Yeah. If you guys have topics that you want me to talk about, of course, when I do these AMAs, you can always bring your questions in and ask them. But if you want some more in-depth analysis of them, please feel free to email them to me or tweet them at Megan. And, I'll try to maybe prepare a little bit. But, I really appreciate you all being here. And we will see you shortly. Until next time. Wait. I'm getting a text from Megan. Maybe I've forgotten to say something. Okay. She just told me there's another super chat. Yep. Right. Until next time, resist poor scholarship. Always ask, how do you know that? Oh, wait. I have to remember to end the stream. There it is. Okay. Thanks for coming, guys. See ya.